This is the way I still perceive myself on the inside. This is a TV news publicity photo taken of me back in my early 30s when I had this desire to be relevant, to explore new things, to be creative, to be inventive, to make a contribution. I still feel this way. I just don't look this way. And now I have decades of experience to apply to those desires and those determinations. It also brings up the issue of, boy, I wish I had known then what I know now. One of the attributes of being of this age. Now, an early graphic that I created for one of my blogs on ProBoomer.com was this one. This really resonated with me. This really showed me that it's like, don't just perceive me based on the wrinkles on my skin, but rather what I have inside. Now, last Thursday in my weekly ProBoomer newsletter, which, by the way, you can sign up for free on ProBoomer.com, and you won't get spam, but you'll get a weekly newsletter and other notifications. I put it in my newsletter, and I used it as a lead-in to talk about how I've learned through some of the Boomcast interviews that I've done and are posted on the site, that some of the most ageist people out there, or age-defeatist people out there, are baby boomers themselves. But shortly after I sent out that newsletter, one of my subscribers responded with this: I have to say I have issues with this graphic and its inherent ageism. To me, the graphic reinforces the age defeatism and other self-demeaning attitudes, and shame frankly, that older people experience and perpetuate without realizing it. Now, this note came from John Tarnoff, for whom there is an interview on ProBoomer, and he is the author of Boomer Reinvention: How to Create Your Dream Career Over 50. And you know what? John's got a point, and we talked about it yesterday via Zoom.
Very simply put, it's an ageist graphic. And it's ageist because what it's saying is that underneath this wrinkled exterior, there is a youthful interior that's supple and elastic and pretty. And it's ageist because we're buying into the idea that that's good. That is the standard, that youth is the standard. And I think we have to think more broadly than that. There's tremendous value to youth, young people, innovation, all that. Love it. Love working with younger people. I have nothing against millennials. But we, as older people, have to stand tall in who we actually are and who we are becoming, right? We're going to get more wrinkled, right, as time goes on. I think we have to live with that, and we have to find the value in that, which is the experience, the wisdom, the equanimity, hopefully, that we are arriving at with age and with experience and with putting all of these life challenges behind us and family growing up and all this stuff. Not to say we don't have challenges ahead of us and retirement and economics and all that, big deal for our generation. But I just think we need to twist the paradigm around what it means to be older. And I think anytime we try to hold up youthfulness as an ideal, we are pulling ourselves back, shooting ourselves in the foot.
So you mentioned a moment ago, not ageless, but ageful.
Right. So we use this ageless a lot, right? Oh, you look great. I mean, I get this. I mean, I'm about to be 68. I was at a party over the holidays, talking to a guy, and we were having a long conversation about all these issues, whatever. And I said something about, look, I'm about to turn 68, and he said, no, wait a minute. You're kidding me. You can't be 68. And I'm very fortunate. I get this a lot. I have aged pretty well. But I think part of what he was responding to was not the way this looks, but what I'm saying and my attitude, right? And we tend to think, oh, you're ageless, right? Like you don't have an age. No. I have an age. It's 68, and I wear it proudly. So I think the term is ageful, right? I am full of my age. I am not less than my age, right? I think we have to celebrate the fact that we're getting older and all of that entails.
We're all obviously to one degree or another, and in practical terms, sensitive to the way that we're perceived, which was more the way that I regarded that graphic. What do we do with it to both own it and, quite frankly, benefit from it?
I mean, there's no snap of the fingers, right? There's no easy answer. I would say that the first step in any of this is to be aware of it, right? And that's why we're having this conversation. Because I think in that awareness is the ability to say, I'm not buying into this. Because I think for every person who says, oh, I like that graphic, or I see where that graphic is going, I would bet that most people have this little tinge of comparison where they're saying, I don't know if underneath the wrinkles I have that. And, oh, I'm not that. I'm not young anymore. And immediately we get drawn into this downward spiral around, oh, I'm getting older. I'm getting less valuable. So the first step for me would be to say, just stop. Anytime you see one of these images or hear one of these expressions and you feel less than, you start to feel caved in inside, stop right there. Reframe that moment around, wait a minute, I have X number of decades on the planet. I have done this, I've raised a family, I've done these jobs, I've accomplished all of these things. Let me sit in that for a minute and let that carry my train of thought into how I'm going to live the rest of the day or the week. Maybe there's some plans around there. Maybe there are some opportunities. Maybe there's some renewed energy around that you can muster just by interfering and interrupting that negative train of thought.
John has a very good point. I agree with it. I think in terms of that graphic, it's a matter of perception is in the eye of the beholder. And that's really what it all comes down to, perception. And there is this perception now, as John also called out in his note, that when it comes to these attributes of being creative and vibrant and relevant and trying to contribute, it's ascribed to the young. Whereas for a lot of us, and quite frankly, this goes back through history, it's with us too, and sometimes even more so. In fact, how many people do I know, or how many accomplished people throughout history said they only started getting it and they were at their best when they got in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. But there is this perception, even amongst boomers themselves, that those wrinkles represent the opposite and it's only the domain of the young. Real quick story for you. In my creative content development business, over the last couple of years, there have been a couple of projects in which the first few meetings were all conference calls, and they went really well, came up with some great ideas. And then we had the face-to-face meetings with the group. And literally in 2 instances, I had people go, I thought you were like this age. That's very telling. But in terms of interpreting that imagery from that graphic and this overall situation, this is a really important discussion to be having right now. So we want to know, what's your opinion? Comment on this. Let's start a discussion on it to try to break through these assumptions, presumptions, and stereotypes and get to the reality and kind of get on to the things that we can all do better together. Be sure to comment.